Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and on today's special episode, I'm talking to returning guest Johnnie Jae about Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Johnnie is the founder of Red Pop News and the late A Tribe Called Geek. Welcome back to the show, Johnnie.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I'm doing this kind of as a special new thing that I want to try out with the show is I'm gonna pop on, I think, once a month, maybe twice a month. I don't know. We'll see how the frequency goes. But I want to talk about the newer movies that are out in theaters or have just come out in theaters or whatever. Be a little bit more timely with some of these episodes. So these may come out as more special episodes. I'm not sure. They're probably going to come out likely on Saturdays. Um, as opposed to my regularly scheduled themes and such that I have going on. But yeah, so I really wanted to get somebody on to talk about Lee Cronin's The Mummy. And I just saw this a week ago. I guess no, it was like a week after it had come out. So now it's when this is dropping, it's been about out for about 2 weeks now. So um but yeah, I despite a lot of people's saying that this was a little too close to Lee Cronin's work on Evil Dead Rise, I really still wanted to go see this. It looked really interesting, just based on the trailers. Looked a lot better than the the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, and a lot more scary than the Brendan Fraser mummy movies, which are just a lot of fun. So this one just looked kind of just right up my alley in terms of horror, just being intense and weird and everything. So yeah, so I actually really enjoyed this one. Um, it was a lot of fun. Let me see. I'm looking at my letterboxed and currently on my best of horror. It's solidly in the middle of my top 10 right now. Um, there's other things that I like a bit better than this one, but it's still I gave this one 4 stars. So
Yeah, that's
out of
about what
five.
I was thinking
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Wait, out of how many stars?
out of five, out of five.
Okay, then I would have to move that down to about a 2.5.
Oh, okay, all right, all
And it's
right.
not that it was bad or anything. It's just that it was, well, one, I feel I'm a little bit biased because I'm from New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if they knew the difference between New Mexico and Mexico. Because there were so many things that just did not make sense.
So I lived in Albuquerque for 10 years. And so yeah, so when it was like outside of Albuquerque, and so I was like, I don't know. I mean, it looks kind of like New
It
Mexico.
kind of looks like it, but
Yeah.
and plus the funeral scene, like what?
Yeah, we'll have to get there. Um, but yeah, I don't like now that's what I got to look up too, because like, did they actually film it in New Mexico? Because I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Um,
Well, I think I want to say they did, but I also feel like
wait a
they
minute.
might have filmed it somewhere else
I'm
too.
looking at all the film locations and it says it's almost all Ireland and like
Yeah, I was gonna say
Spain.
like it's somewhere very odd because there was some of the landscape where it didn't make sense for New Mexico. Like it sort of looked close.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting that they filmed it like mostly in Ireland and a little bit in Spain. That's weird. Um, that's interesting. That is funny though. I just saw the in the goofs section on IMDb. It's because the the I guess at one point one of the vehicles comes up and it's got a front license plate. New Mexico doesn't have front license plates, so that is funny.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like, oh, that you notice.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, and that's one of the funny things too. Is like unless you live there, you don't really notice something like
Yeah,
that. So,
exactly.
but that is funny. Somebody didn't catch that, so that's pretty funny. Yeah, no, that's very interesting that they filmed it mostly in Ireland and Spain. That does kind of, I guess, make more sense as to why it doesn't look like New Mexico. I will say, like, it was a good approximation. Um,
Yes,
but there, it was funny too because like even my daughter, like she was like something's off with this. It doesn't look quite right. And I was like, I mean, because what was she saying? I think she was saying it looked a little too orange, maybe. I don't know. And I was like, well, it's definitely brown. Like New Mexico, like that's the funny thing. Like different pockets of New Mexico have green in them, but living in Albuquerque, it's just so like just brown. Everything's just brown there. And it's just I don't know. It's
you know
which
what I think it was? I think it was because they kept showing like deep canyons. Like the
yeah,
part where they drive up to go get pizza, that whole
yeah.
section was a little weird, and I kept thinking, why does that not look
Like
right?
unless you're living in the Sandias, it doesn't really like, and that's kind of what I was thinking was like maybe they were just living in the Sandia, like just outside of Albuquerque in the mountains, but like it's still we're just getting deep into Albuquerque talk here.
I know.
Um, um, that's so funny because I just went back last year, and we were only there for like a day. But it's just it just changed. Albuquerque has changed so much in the what oh my gosh, almost 20 years since I've been there. Since I lived there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely different.
yeah, it's wild. But it was really interesting driving around the day we were there because we were on the east side, but I lived mostly on the west side. We actually went down to the west side. That's right. We actually went. Sorry, I'm just babbling now about Albuquerque. Um, but it's yeah, this movie is so funny too because I mean I'm guessing they like with and because like they have to have this whole oasis scene at the towards the end of the movie and everything. It's like okay, well we got to put some green in Egypt because otherwise this is going to make sense because we have so much because we're obviously not filming in Egypt. And I mean I guess in parts of Ireland it's probably not that, and maybe these are the parts that were filmed in Spain. I don't know. I don't know what was filmed in where, but they had to approximate Egypt and New Mexico as best as possible. Um, but
Which is probably why they chose Albuquerque.
yeah, probably because it would just be more sandy, you know,
Yeah, they're
a
like,
more
you know, we
sandy
can kill
desert
two
locale.
birds with one stone here.
Right? That's too funny. Um, but yeah, no, I think the comparisons with Evil Dead Rise are fair, but I also feel like there's enough difference in this movie that it's not because the people who say it's just a retread of Evil Dead Rise, I don't agree with because I don't feel like there's enough. Like, sure, it's a family going through something with, but it's just the one daughter. Yeah, she kind of possesses the other two kids a little bit, but and the mom and the grandma. I mean, so I kind of get the comparisons, but at the same time, like here's my thing. It's Evil Dead adjacent. So, which
And I think it's more just stylistically.
yes, yes,
It's
100%.
I think that's where, it's just enough to where you make that correlation to Evil Dead Rise. And once you do, that's kind of all you can see. It's like once you notice a flaw in something, like even if it's tiny and no one else notices but you know it's there.
Yeah. Well, I think this is one of those things where it's like maybe this is just Lee Cronin's style. Like it's like he actually has a visual style that's his own that I will say I did watch what was it his first movie I can't remember what it's called now. I'm blanking. The Hole in the Ground. So I watched that for the first time before I watched The Mummy, just so I can get a sense because I'd already seen Evil Dead Rise, of course, and I just wanted to get kind of a sense of was The Hole in the Ground similar to these, but no. he seems to have really gotten his style with Evil Dead Rise and then just kind of pushed it over into the Mummy. Um, and it may just be that's his style. Just like when you watch a Sam Raimi movie, even if it's not Evil Dead, he has certain stylistic touchstones that he does in a lot of his movies. And he definitely has a visual style that's fairly unique to himself. And I would say maybe that's what Cronin's going for with this movie as well.
Yeah, I
Is
also think it's partly too that it's just kind of a trend of filmmaking
mm,
because there are other horror films too that have come out that are very similar stylistically, in terms of like the lighting, just the way that they have kind of like the creature movements and
yeah,
the even the way that they look. Like, we go through these trends through horror movies,
true.
and so I kind of think that it's kind of that too, I think it's just a mix of that. Like we're seeing this style. I mean, it's like the early 90s, or well, not early 90s, early 2000s, right? When every
Mm,
movie had that dark blue filter over everything, like Underworld,
yes.
The Covenant, Twilight. You
Aw,
know?
yeah,
I mean, it's just I think it's just that, this is kind of like a stylistic trend that's going on right now,
true.
as well as him still developing his own style.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that, he's developing his style. He's figuring out what he likes to do. I do like his choice of doing the split diopter shots that he was doing both in Evil Dead Rise and now this, where it's like, you get the foreground shot and the background shot both in focus. I've always loved that when you see that in movies, but he seems to be doing it on a different, like, I don't know, a different level, like because he's got the person, usually it's the person in the foreground is like super close up and kind of weird looking or whatever. So I really kind of dig that. um
Yeah, because it really draws you into the actual
yeah.
scene because you don't. What was the other movie that was kind of like this? Undertone. I thought
Mm,
they did the same thing of
yeah,
being able to draw you into the movie. Like even if there was nothing really going on, they had such a great way of filming the scene to where you were looking for something.
yeah.
Like
Well,
it
and
was like you
yeah,
had the foreground, you had the background, and you were searching because you have the creepy music, you have this, this is a horror film,
yeah,
so you're looking for like those hidden clues in the background. So you're just kind of like more drawn into the scene,
right.
just from the way that they're framing it. And I think it was the same thing with the mummy.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I didn't, I will admit I didn't love Undertone. I thought it was mostly okay. It was kind of like a middle movie for me. And I think I gave that one like a, what is it? That one I gave 3 stars out of 5.
Yeah, same.
Because it was great, but I thought they did really good with the audio design. It was very creepy. But the ending was really abrupt. And I think it's really good for a one-time watch. But um, I can see with the Mummy, I don't even know if the Mummy's going to be worth more than the one-time watch. But I feel like it was good. It was really good for what it did. This is a really gross movie. Like if you're squeamish at all about, and not about just your typical gore stuff, this is more um body horror, not in the, I guess, in the kind of traditional sense that we think of body horror. But this is body horror and just like teeth and just body goo and gore and things being ripped off and just in ways that you don't typically see in a horror movie because they don't tend to get this gross, I guess. They go for more over the top rather than, like, I don't
It's
know.
yeah, like it's not as visceral, right? Because this
Yeah.
was very visceral.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, visceral. So, yeah, it's just, oh man. There's a sequence in this, and people will know what I'm talking about when I mention this, but the toenail sequence is just so hellacious. And just so, yeah. Um, it's just, it's too much. It was too much.
No, and it's funny because I attend a lot of like I get a lot of offers to do these like early screenings
Mm.
and things here in LA. And this was one movie that I kept getting invited to and I kept putting it off because I was like, no, I want to see it when it comes out. I don't want to see it early because when you see it early, they tend to edit things later.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're trying to see what's working, what's not.
It's the test
And a lot of
audience. Yeah.
times the special effects aren't all there. And I was so excited to see this movie. So I was just like, no, I don't want to see it when something might change. Like I might like
Yeah.
something and then when it comes out, it's going to change. Um,
Mm.
so I put it off. Like I avoided because I wanted to see this and I wanted to see it with other people who are horror fans too. Because,
Yeah.
like I heard people talking that had gone to the early screenings and, like they just kept the only thing they kept saying was it's gross. Like
Yeah.
this is worse than Terrifier 3. And I was like, Okay. And I was kind of like, okay, but what do you mean? But it's worse than Terrifier 3. So people who were very squeamish during that movie,
Yes.
this
Well,
is going to be more because at least that one is like that over the top horror. Like,
yeah, exactly.
and it's kind of fun, right? This was not fun.
No, this is not fun. This is yeah, this is what you need to know going into this is that yeah, like you said, Terrifier 3 has a lot of that over the top gore. Like none of that maybe like sure, I'm sure there were moments where I winced and 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 everything, but like I don't know, it's this one kind of piggybacks literally on his Evil Dead Rise, where there's because I just rewatched that recently too. Um, and that movie is gross too. And this one just ups that ante, and it's just like you said, visceral is the best word for it because it's so intensely gross at times that you're just like,
Why?
yeah. And that's not to say that it's not scary on its own too, because there are some very good scary moments. This girl who has come back, um, and everything, is very just she's gnarled. She looks like what he did. One of the things that I saw that was interesting was that he went and looked at bog bodies, people who'd been like submerged in water for long periods of time, like dead bodies that were in bodies of water for a long time, and that bloatedness and stuff like that. And she had that kind of combination of bloatedness and
The mummification.
the mummification, like the weird preservation of that, plus just her like her skin, the color of her skin was just off and
The
everything.
texture.
Yes.
I thought that was really good.
Well, and once you find out exactly the reason why, you're like, oh, okay, this makes a lot
Yeah,
more
like it
sense
makes
as to what that
sense.
is. Yeah. So, yeah, there's some there's this movie. I really do think this movie is really a lot of not like fun, but it is a very interesting movie and very well done for what it is. Especially for a movie that's called The Mummy. It's it is and isn't The Mummy. So just know going into that it's not taking a traditional mummy idea.
At
Um,
all.
yeah, and I do want to preface this before we get kind of farther into this. This is going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, please go watch the movie first before you listen to this episode. I know that's probably going to, put a significant damper on how many people listen to this episode, uh, but hopefully you'll come back to it and listen to this episode afterward. Um, but this girl goes missing. The She gets taken. You see her get taken. Um, and the family has to deal with her being missing for 8 years. It kind of throws their whole life out of whack. They were supposed to go to New York after they were living in Egypt for a little while. They were supposed to go to New York. The dad got a good job, like a good opportunity, and then with all of this, they ended up going to Albuquerque instead, which is where the mom's mother lives. And everything got derailed because of that. And then 8 years later, they get a call they found the body of the daughter, um, and she's alive. Um, and the I mean, what you see in the trailers is, I mean, fairly accurate for what's going on with the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
think the other thing too with like the story itself is I think what really throws you off is how it starts
mm,
because you are introduced to a family.
yeah,
You have a man, a woman in the car. They're got two boys and their daughter in the back, and you see them in the truck
oh,
and
you're right, yeah, no,
they start driving home and they walk in, they find their pet bird dead, and the parents start looking at each other and they're like, uh-oh, like, you kind of get this feeling like something's happening. Um, and the kids are kind of like oblivious to this, right? But the parents automatically tell the kids, stay here. And they disappear
yeah,
and they go down into this like cellar that has this hidden pyramid
yeah,
or like hidden temple in there. And, like they're so nonchalant is the word. It's just
yeah,
and you kind of like you're confused a little bit because you're like, okay, what are we looking at here? Because they obviously know something's happening and they're like, is he here? Is he awake or something like that? And they go down there and check and obviously something's going on and chaos ensues. The father's killed. Um, and then it just cuts to this other family, like the family that is the center of the story.
right,
And I thought that was a little jarring at first because you're just like, okay, wait a second. Like what happened here? Like,
yeah,
how does this kind of tie into this? And they bring it around throughout the movie, but that first part um really kind of makes it known that this is not going to be like your typical mummy movie.
yeah. No, I agree. I think that it's yeah, and it's interesting too because apparently this is the first, according to IMDb, I don't know how true this is, but this is the first movie to have uh it's the first one to have actual Egyptian actors appear in a mummy film. Um and I'm assuming that might possibly be just the main actors. Um maybe they've had, I don't know how accurate that is, but um so it does at least lend itself some credibility um in terms of um the uh the proceedings, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that was the other thing too, right? Because I think when you hear a movie like The Mummy, um, especially with the way that we've been talking about films, needing to be more authentic, have more authentic representation of the people being or the stories that are being told. So I think they did a really good job of that because there's so many ways that this could have gone off the rails.
Yeah,
And I think that having like Egyptian actors being part of this kind of helped that um because it didn't seem as tokenizing. And
yeah,
even the story, like there was no real blame being put on a culture normally like there normally is, like with
yes,
say native, the ancient Indian burial ground tropes and things like that.
yes,
That wasn't there and it easily could have been. Like it could have gone down that route. But the way that they told the story, I thought was really clever, because they never really did give an exact cause or origin of this thing, right? Like it's just always been this way. And these people are just kind of like caretakers. They know what to do to contain
yeah,
this and to kind of keep it contained. Um, which also makes sense of why they took this girl
yeah,
because she wasn't from their community.
yeah. Well, let's I want to get into that because this is like a big part of this movie is that um so they get their daughter back. They take her back to New Mexico. They're trying to reacclimate her into life, which to me was really off. Like she obviously was going to need lots of, like, I get the mom was a nurse, but like she would need like a team of doctors and a long time to get her back to what I would deem as a good place to be able to go home.
Yes.
That really struck me as odd the whole time because I was like, this does not seem
This
right. She
doesn't
should
make
not be going
sense.
home at all.
Exactly. And the fact that the parents just had no thought whatsoever for their other kids.
Yeah.
Like, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Okay, we said spoiler alert. So this girl does not come back right. When
No.
they go to see her, she's literally in a hospital bed, and they tell the parents, like, look, she's been through something so traumatic. She is physically not the same. She's
Yeah.
mentally not the same. She has these weird tics that are kind of like, and they explain it as like a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
And so
Well,
they warn the parents.
that she's like basically catatonic.
Yes. And the
Yeah.
parents just go in and start talking to her and treating her like nothing's changed. And then they show it, they just cut to it, taking her home, and no warning for the mom's mom
Yeah.
or the kids, like,
Or
hey,
at
look,
least
we're
none the
bleeding.
audience sees. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so they just bring her back and just expect everyone to treat her as normal. But there's and I know it's a movie, they do
Yeah.
this, but at the same time, you know that there's no way a hospital would release somebody like that, like discharge them to just go home. Like she would have been transferred from that hospital in Egypt to a hospital in Albuquerque where they would have probably kept her in a care facility, right? Until she was deemed okay enough to go
Yeah.
home. Like there's no way they would have just been able to take her right from the hospital in Egypt straight home. Nor I don't think any parent would want to traumatize their other kids
Yeah.
because when we say she did not come back right, she did not come back right.
She did not come back right. Yeah.
And I mean, because, and it brings up a whole other thing too, with ableism,
Yeah.
because, and it's kind of funny because I honestly believe like they were trying to dance around it. Like, okay, we know this is why we did this. This is why she looks this way physically, but we also got to make sure that we're not offending, people who are physically disabled in some way.
Yeah.
So I feel like they were kind of dancing around it, which I thought was funny, right? Because they never like they were like, if we don't address it and we have people just treating her like she's normal, that's not ableism.
But it's one of those things where like I'm good with doing a certain amount um of suspension of disbelief. Uh, but
Exactly.
this was asking too much at
Yeah,
times.
especially once the gore kicked in, right? Because
Yeah.
they get her home. She's obviously not right. The mom and the dad knows this. He's like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have her here. Maybe
Yeah.
she needs a little more time. And the mom's just like, no, no, we got her. And treating the dad like he's the bad guy.
Yeah. And to be
And
fair, it's Jack Rayner who was the not so great boyfriend in Midsummer. So, we're all kind of inclined to just think of him as a bad person anyway. So,
and he was the only one making
but
sense.
he was the only one actually actively investigating things and trying to figure out what was going on. Meanwhile, the mother's just excusing everything just because she's got her daughter back. And yeah, no, it was wild. It was
It
wild.
was because,
I
it's
mean,
like,
it's very horror movie. Don't get me wrong. It's very horror movie.
and it'd be one thing too, right? Because like just the way that they were making it seem like, okay, nobody's supposed to mention that she's not right or notice that she is. Because even her mom, right, is going in there and praying and treating her just like
Hmm.
she's a regular sick kid, even after she gets attacked.
Oh my God. That poor fucking grandma. I swear to God, she kept getting the shit beat out of her so much. I was honestly like, I was surprised more people in that family didn't die. But when she finally died, which was brutal, by the way, I still was just like, oh, thank God she can't abuse her anymore. And I was so fucking wrong. It was ridiculous.
I know. It's so wrong. I
Oh
mean,
man.
and it's a look, and it's a good movie. I
It
like this
is.
story, and I think that and I don't know if it's just because, he's still finding his style, the way that he tells stories through film. Um, but like I feel like they had a good base story,
Hmm.
but just it kind of got lost in trying to have that shock value with the visuals.
Yeah. I think there's something like this is a co-production between Blumhouse and James Wan's Atomic Monsters. So you got I feel like you had some too many cooks in the kitchen style things going on here.
That
Where
makes sense.
it wasn't like fully Cronin's story, maybe. Um, and I don't know if that's true. It could be not. But like you said, they were test screenings and stuff. Um, and um, I think it is interesting. It says Lee Cronin cited Poltergeist and Seven as influences on the film's tone and themes. And I can kind of see, especially the Poltergeist stuff there with the family and the one daughter being affected and everything. But I I do think it's interesting too, because we were talking about how the mom is just fully like, no, everything's fine. Meanwhile, the dad is like, no, there's something on. They kind of flip that trope because normally it's the mom who sees things that are wrong and she's not believed. And so it's usually typically the woman not being believed in these situations. So I do appreciate that they kind of flip the trope on that, at least in this way, so that the dad was kind of the one going, hey, something's off with all this. We should be doing something about this. And the mom go, no, she's fine.
Even after
So
they're literally going through the walls, chasing
yes, yeah.
her down, right? Like,
Oh my God.
I,
Like so many instances of like, please put her like, and all they do is they lock up those walls, like the doors into the wall. Like
like a supernatural being is not going to be able to get through those little locks.
it
There's
was just so many ridiculous moments and not in a bad way though too. Like because like as much as I like it sounds like I'm picking on the movie, it's still a good movie. It's still worth a
It
watch.
is. And that's what makes it so hard to
Yeah.
talk about. Because I mean, I came out of the movie with a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
Um, because because like I walked out and at first it was like, what did I just watch? Like, what was that? And then when you really start thinking about it, I got in the car, me and my partner were talking, and I was laughing. I was like, wait a second. I said, was this one of those things that they're kind of poking fun at like white parenthood? Because, like when it comes to like all these school shootings and everything like that, oh no, my child would never. Perfect
Yeah.
angel, there were no signs. Meanwhile, once you get into the real story, there were red flags all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the same with this. Because oh my gosh, talking about the visceral stuff, right? So the
Hmm.
mom's the nurse, and I get her wanting to be that caretaker.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that scene at the beginning where somehow nobody thought to clean this poor child after coming out of a sarcophagus
That girl should have been cleaned like at the hospital
at the
before her parents
hospital.
even got her there. Like
Exactly.
her
Her
nails should
nails
have
should
been
have been
cut.
clipped
Thank you.
and
Like all of this stuff was ridiculous. Like they should not have been able to present the daughter for like days, if not weeks. Like,
yeah, because her hair wasn't brushed.
oh, it
I
was just
mean, they
bad.
yeah, and the thing that boggled my mind, right? Like, yes, you're a nurse lady, but when your kid's skin literally comes off, you don't just wrap a band-aid in it and be like, rub some dirt in it, you'll be all right, kid. You take him to the hospital, and yet she's just like, oh, her this whole slab of skin just came off. Let me just bandage this. What?
Yeah. Well, and then this opens up the next section. So we get that toenail scene, and the toenail just rips off with a whole chunk of like flesh up her shin. And it's just gnarly as hell. But that then the dad, I don't know, I
And
guess
then
he
don't forget the toenail that actually shoots into her mouth.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was hilarious because I was like, Wait,
Ugh,
what?
yeah. And it was weird. And again, it's one of those weird, it is very Evil Dead-esque to do something like that. Like it just was like a weirdly like
A
gross, but
humorous moment.
yeah, but gross but humorous moment. And it's just like, he definitely learned from Sam Raimi for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely what I really liked about that whole scene in particular though was that it was humorous, right?
Hmm.
But you almost felt like you didn't know for sure if you were supposed to find that humorous.
Well, because that
Because
was,
like the tone
yeah,
was so serious. There was no break,
yeah,
not even in the mom's like reaction to anything or her mom who was also in the room.
yeah,
Like there was no break in expression or anything that there usually is in a lot of campy horror films that let you know, like, okay, you are supposed to laugh at this. Like
yeah.
this is supposed to be funny. And I think that's what made it work because it was enough to make you not just uncomfortable
It's an
seeing it.
uncomfortable laugh. Yeah.
Yes, it was just the fact that you also didn't know if you should be laughing. And if you laughed, were you
What,
the sicko? You know,
right? Right. Oh,
are you
yeah.
that person that everybody else in the theater's like, what is wrong with them?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, that outside of that, then the dad, he gets the skin and notices that there's like what seems to be writing on it. And then somehow, I don't know how he managed to do this, but he unpeels like layer after layer of this skin, and it's, I don't know, 7 or 8 layers of skin, of what we think of as skin. But each layer has writing on it, and he takes pictures of it, and then he goes to the university, and goes to some guy there, and again, I'm thinking, okay, so he lives in Albuquerque, so he just had to go to UNM, right? Um, and again, I don't recognize any classroom. I went to UNM. I don't recognize any classroom that looked like his classroom. Um, and and then he goes to this guy, and this guy was actually in Evil Dead Rise too. And so this guy kind of tells him the lore behind what they're reading on these in this writing that's on here, and it opens up this whole mythology about this creature that needs to be uh, like trapped inside of a human body, and that's how it's kept, and it's only goes for so long until the body deteriorates. Then they got to keep constantly basically just push it into a new body. um and Which very struck me, that was one of the more Evil Dead-esque moments, because we get this, like, there's a recording about this, and there's this professor and everything else. It just felt very Evil Dead, talking about the Necronomicon and everything like that. So I actually kind of dug that part.
Yeah, the
And it
only
made
thing
it feel Evil Dead adjacent, like it's almost could
yeah,
have been in the Evil Dead world.
exactly. And the only thing that I didn't like about that, right, is that he goes to talk to this professor, but then nothing comes of it. Like, you don't think that a professor who's built his entire career on this is going to also look at this and be like, I'm getting involved.
Yeah, he didn't, like, in a normal movie, that's what happens. The professor gets
Exactly.
involved, comes over to the house, examines the
Checks it
girl,
out.
yeah, and then
It's
nothing.
and then nothing. It's just like, oh, okay, I just talked to this guy and he told me this really cool thing. He had something that was ancient, like,
Yeah.
but it was just a good conversation. Yeah, forget about it. I didn't like that part because again, it was one of those things where like it was too much expecting too much of you to not think about that.
Yeah.
The same with the way that they had the cop in Egypt
Hmm.
who, was still investigating, still trying to figure this out. But they, like, it was just, I don't know, it was, those parts just bugged me a little bit because they really didn't show why or try to explain in a real way aside from her just being like, oh, well, I feel bad that when you were here, we thought you were the one who did something to your daughter. Um,
Right.
as the motivation to be that involved in the case. I
Yeah.
thought they could have done something a little more on that side of being like, hey, we noticed that there's this trend of people going missing,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether it's tourists or people in that community, because they had to have been doing this a while, right? Like it had, I mean, from that video, she
Yeah.
explained that this is this family's responsibility.
Yeah.
So that meant that there had to have been other victims, but yet it was never brought up as a pattern that this cop who was supposed to be looking into this discovered.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of bothered me a little bit because it was just it's like those would have made the story a little more compelling and made
Yeah.
it a little more brought it into the realm of like some believability. Um,
Well, it would have made it so that you weren't having to suspend so much disbelief
exactly. Because
on
there's
so much. Yeah, it would have
especially
connected
because
the
we're
dots
already
better.
expected to believe that we live in a world with demons.
Right.
Like where this could happen. Like that's kind of like the limit that you should put your viewers through. Um, because sometimes it's those realistic details too that make things more frightening.
Yeah.
Because if you can draw that parallel of like, missing children or missing people, um, those are things that happen. There are people that just mysteriously disappear. You look at what is it, the National Parks series, Missing 411, I think it's called, or something like
Hmm.
that, where this guy has this whole series where he just goes through and he's exposing all these people who have just mysteriously gone missing from like our national parks.
Wow.
And he does it in a way where he's talking about, like bringing in folklore of the area, bringing in, aliens and all of these things that
Interesting.
really make you think like this could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Um, because this is still happening. You're not finding these people. Several people have gone missing from these same places. Why? And why have hardly any of them actually been found? Um, and I think they could have benefited from some of that,
Yeah.
because the story itself, like underneath all that horror and everything, like from her being taken to her being, this turned into this vessel in the manner that she was. Um, and even like them finding her because that was kind of crazy too, right? With the plane crash.
Hmm.
Like, because all of a sudden you just cut to the scene of a kid out in the like a forest or oasis seeing a plane crash.
Right.
And that's how this girl was found. And then later on you find out that, oh, they were moving her.
Yeah.
Um, and it was kind of like part of this curse, right? Like you're not supposed to move or something. Um, but it just like we needed a little more realism. Just
Well,
a little.
well, and then I will say the exposition that we get about everything towards the end of the movie about what all of this has been about was kind of um confusing at times for sure. It's you find out that later on that because he contacts the Egyptian police about um about the name um Layla that he finds.
Asmaranian.
Um yeah. And so then she figures out who it is, goes to their area where they grow whatever it was. I can't even remember the fruit they grow there. Um but it's that family from the very beginning that went down into the you know tomb or whatever that it was, and you find out that they are the ones who took her and were holding her inside this thing all this time, and their reasons why. Once they get the videotape, she gets this videotape, and the videotape kind of explains everything, that this family was part of um, like a long um, line of people who were keeping this demon held inside these bodies, and that they actively needed to find somebody young so that the body could be, or the spirit could be held inside the body for a much longer time. But anybody would do as long as they were alive, but especially a young person. And so, um, and that the people um, who were flying the plane and moving the body, they were the sons from the beginning, and they uh, they were transporting the body because their whole area, their whole oasis was going to be flooded soon.
Oh,
And
that's right. I was trying to remember because I was like, why were they moving her again? But
yeah,
yeah, because they had that whole valley, like save the valley kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I thought that was really interesting too because it brought in another theme. Right? Like that could have been a little more interesting too of environmental violence.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and what the impact of that is, like the
yeah,
unknown impact, which in this case was that you were going to be flooding a valley that was holding this ancient secret demon and
yeah,
keeping it from destroying the world.
exactly. So I just it's there. It does make for good exposition. I think that it got a little muddled in all of that because they were trying too many interesting ideas, like, oh, let's just put it on a tape and let's show them the whole ordeal and everything like that. um and that's all well and good, but it definitely made it a little bit funky. uh
Definitely funky is the perfect word.
but and this ties into the very end, which I want to get into. So they finally figure out that, like, um, or that they figure out that she's wrapped in all this, in all these things, that this skin that had been pulled off of her that he found had all this writing on it isn't actually her skin. It's just these wrappings all over her. And that she's in the room all locked in, um, and she's pulling all this wrapping off of herself. And I think that's when the funeral was going on, wasn't it? Is when she
Yeah,
gets
and
all the
it's
wrapping off.
also yeah, because it's also when we learned that that wrapping is also what keeps the demon contained too, like keeps it
Yes,
more docile.
yeah. And so it definitely, again, lots of lots of things going on here, because they're having the funeral for um the mother's mom, the grandmother, and then the youngest daughter has been taken over by the mummy daughter. I gotta get these names because I keep just saying all these
I know
names.
the
um but like, because the let's see, the daughter, Katie, the mummy daughter, um Katie takes over Maud, and she ends up taking over Sebastian too, her brother and sister. And they like help defend her, and um just kind of do everything. And I get, again, this is where the comparisons to the Evil Dead come in, because they're just kind of, being weird and doing, just being odd, and obviously not acting like themselves. Because like the youngest daughter ends up like bashing all of her teeth out at one point, and then
yeah, and I think that that was one of okay, that funeral scene was pretty creepy because
there was a lot
first of
creepy
all,
about it.
you have that little girl who's just being a menace as it
Yeah,
is, Maud,
yeah,
um, the little sister. She's
just
already
pulling her
been,
teeth
she's
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's like she's a menace. But then there's that part, right? Like you know something's happening. But then you see that little girl and she looks up and you see Katie coming through
Mm-hmm.
the floor in the ceiling from the upstairs and kind of crawling on the walls. That was a bonker donker scene because and we're used to seeing that, right? Like demons crawling on the wall. We've seen that in Legion, we've seen it in like The Exorcist, just all these different horror movies where there's possession of these people crawling along the walls.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the most popular ones was it Exorcist 3?
Yeah.
Um was one of the most popular scenes with that. And to see that in this movie really kind of breathe new life into that trope because nobody noticed.
Yeah.
The funeral was still going on, and you have this girl literally crawling on the ceilings, and nobody's noticing her until everything just kind of pops off. And even then, everybody just kind of is acting like, oh, this is a disturbance. Like,
Yeah.
and you're sitting there like, what is going on? Because I mean, that scene, it's still just, it lives rent free in my head. Uh, I play that scene over and over because one, it's also one of the grossest scenes
Yeah.
um, because of everything that's going on. They're desecrating this poor grandma's corpse, and it's just bonker donkers. But
Yeah.
everybody else is still so nonchalant for the situation. The parents, are just kind of like, oh, this is so embarrassing for us.
Yeah.
Can you guys just please leave right now? Kind of like, what?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it works so well because that should be one of those scenes that is so beyond belief. Um, and it is, but it works so well because of the visceral gore.
Yeah.
And also because I think at that point too, you kind of start, in my head anyway, like you kind of have to fill in a lot of blanks.
Hmm.
And I feel that at some point, the way that she took over the younger sister and brother, I think she may have done to the mom too. Which is why the mom was just so oblivious to everything that was going
Mm.
on.
Yeah.
And so like servitude, because like she was just waiting on this girl hand and foot day and night. Like she never left her side, forgot about her other two kids, um, and her job because she was a nurse. Like, I kind of feel like something happened somewhere that we didn't get to see, but it kind of led to this because that funeral scene was just, like I said, it just lives rent free in my head because there's so much to dissect in that one scene
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, like there's so much, even the symbolism that's going on, like the dad's discovering all of this stuff that's going on. Um, and you kind of see it playing out like everything that he is translating from these messages, at the beginning it also shows him and the daughter talking through Morse code, like
Yeah.
he's like, you need to get your, because I guess she was like a Girl Scout over there or something, and she was trying to
Yeah.
get her Morse code badge. And at some point in the movie she's making these like clicking noises,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
he discovers
That's where
that.
he finds the Layla name. That's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he discovers his daughter's like trying to talk to him through Morse code, and that's where he kind of starts this investigation. But it's kind of such a weird thing because uh I don't know. There's too many ways to go with this right now, and my brain, I just fried my brain.
I'm telling you, this movie is like that. It just kind of weirdly phrased because there's so much going on in this. And it's like,
Yeah,
it's, yeah, it's
and
definitely a
it's
movie that you need to see at least the one time, maybe two, like once you've kind of, like after you've seen it the first time and you know things, go back and rewatch it to kind of go, to fill in those gaps of like, or to see all the other pieces that might fit in there, I think.
yeah, or to see
Um,
what you might have missed because,
yeah.
like I said, there's a lot of
Because I
symbolism.
didn't think about that with the mom, that the mom might have already been affected by her, and that's why she was so just like, oh, I got to take care of her to the detriment of everything else.
Yeah, because like, and that's the thing too that is kind of odd, and maybe it's a continuity issue, but like they made sure that they showed her kind of possessing the younger brother and sister
Hmm.
and how
Yeah.
she went about doing that because, and I think there was something other that had to do with the demon itself needing fear
Yeah.
to be able to really gain power. So you see this, which kind of explains why she was kind of like terrifying them, like terrorizing them, because
Yeah.
it was more of like a mental horror that she was like, kind of like it was mental abuse, basically, is what she was
Yeah.
doing to the younger brother and sister before she actually kind of overtook them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and there's so many things that just I don't know. Like you said, it's one of those movies where you have to at least watch it once,
Yeah.
maybe twice, once you kind of understand what's going on. And I think that's the bad thing about movies like this, right? Especially for someone like me, because I do a lot of media criticism. And so when I go to watch a movie, I usually watch them twice.
Yeah.
And the first time is just to get a lay of the land,
Yeah.
kind of pick up
For
like
the
what's the
actual
story.
entertainment of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
am I entertained?
Yeah.
And then I'll see it again, like because a lot of movies are straightforward, so you don't really need to see them twice,
Yeah. Yeah.
unless there's something that's kind of like an epic, right? And you know that you missed something. So you watch it again because you're like, oh, okay, 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 I picked that up the first time. Okay, yeah, this is what I was thinking.
Hmm.
And this is one of those movies where you really do kind of have to watch it a second time because the first time there's so much. I think they tried to do too much with the
Hmm.
story, and they knew they like they were trying to really differentiate this from the classic mummy stories that we are
Yeah.
familiar with. They were trying to make this something different, something new, and I think in doing so, they just kind of got bogged down by all these details that they were adding into the story in ways that would really make it clear that this was not your typical mummy story, that this wasn't the Brendan Fraser mummy or any mummy movie, right? Or the Tom Cruise mummy. This was something new. And I
Right.
think they tried to do just a little too much. And overall, I think it kind of worked. But
I
if you're a media critic or a horror fan that is obsessed with like these details when you watch
yeah.
a movie, it's going to drive you bonkers because you're like, was that a continuity issue or or was there a cut screen? Like
Yeah.
what? Like I need a director's cut of this now.
Or at least like a really good director's commentary. Yeah, to kind of
Yeah, and you
help
know
go
what? And I
into it.
really miss that about physical media because
Hmm.
at least when we had like I love the commentary on DVDs
Hmm.
because you really got a better insight of what was going on in certain scenes, things that we missed, and also things that we mistranslated.
Yeah.
Like and I really miss that because and this is one of those movies where that would really benefit.
Yeah, and I think again, I think that's what's interesting about it is like it does make it seem like we're kind of picking on the movie, but I think that overall you and I both enjoyed this movie a lot. Um, it's just those are the weird things that now talking about it, we can nitpick at it. Um, and kind of go, okay, you know what, this was something that I noticed that kind of didn't make sense or whatever. Um,
And I will say that I feel like they really perfectly cast this movie. Um, because everybody really played the part that they were supposed to play.
mm,
I think the most believable part of the movie was the fact that the people that like the actors who were cast as those characters were actually those characters.
yeah.
It wasn't like they were like they did it. It was they weren't distracting. You know what? I guess that's the best word. Like it wasn't like they were trying to act. Like it felt
Yeah.
like these characters felt very lived in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that differentiates itself a little bit also from the Tom Cruise Mummy movie because Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise. And so it's kind of hard to get out of your head that, oh, he's just, this is going to be obviously an action, version of it. And I mean, even with the Brendan Fraser movies, like Brendan Fraser helps make those movies what it is. And I'm personally excited to see the new one that's coming out soon. Um, but those are definitely more action adventure mummy movies rather than a straight up horror movie. And I think it's very smart in terms of horror to kind of, and again, this is what's really great about horror is horror has this ability to um, do pretty much any kind of movie that you want, like this drama kind of movie, and still have it be a horror movie. Um, but it's also a family going through grief of losing their daughter and then regaining her and trying to help her back to what she was and stuff. And so there's a whole bunch in this that like you could easily translate that, take out all the horror elements, and this would still be an interesting movie on its own, um, with
Yeah,
these characters. So
exactly. And the one thing I'm drawing a blank on, like I've been trying to remember and I can't for the life of me, is the ending of the movie. Um,
okay,
like I
so
remember them, going through the rituals,
yes,
kind of getting their revenge, but I cannot remember if when they were able to transfer the demon, because the dad, of course, the one who knows what's going on, is the first one to say, you know what, I'm going to take one for the family.
yeah,
I'm going to take one for the team, because of course he had that close relationship with Katie.
yeah,
So of course he'd be the one to kind of sacrifice himself for her. But
right.
when they did that, I do not remember if she returned back to the way that she looked before.
She did. She once she had all the stuff off of her, and once the demon was transferred to him, then you jump ahead a little bit in time, and she's looking more like regular self, like her skin is normal, her face is starting to kind of gain back, her hair looks better, just everything about her looks generally better, like she's more human looking again.
Yeah, see, I could not remember for the life of me if that's what happened. Uh,
But yeah, I wanted to get
because
in this ending though too because of what they do to like resolve this whole thing, because he takes this demon in himself and it's like, okay, well that sucks. Yes, they saved Katie, but now he's, you know, has the demon in him, and now he's got to be living in this with this in this sarcophagus for all this, or however long they can keep him in there. But then they go to the lady who took Katie, and um uh, basically the revenge is that they're going to put the demon into her because she started all this and everything like that. And I get it to a degree, like because it's fucked up that she fucked up their family and started all this and everything else. But at the same time, she's obviously she was in a bad situation where she had to do something to keep this demon held. Like there was
yeah,
no
like
good
it
way of doing this. Like you would have had to take somebody, regardless of who it is. Sure, the best case scenario is just get some kind of shitty criminal and do it. But if it's an older, a man in his 20s and stuff like
then you
that,
just have to do it again soon.
you'd have to do it again sooner. Yeah, exactly. But so again, I think that's probably the best option. Get a criminal who's in his 20s, somebody who's a killer or something like that. Do it there, perfect. That would be the best option instead of just kidnapping a kid off the street. So
Yeah, and
I get the revenge, but it also seems like, well, I mean, kind of shitty to do to the woman when she was kind of in a bad place,
but
of
she was
having to take
also
care of
I
this.
but I kind of get it too, because she
I
was
do.
also very unapologetic about
She
it
was. Yeah.
and kind of ruthless in the way that she
Yeah.
thought, which you would have to be after having to do this several times, right? And
Yeah.
knowing you really have no choice. The
Yeah.
one thing that, again, this movie asks you to suspend belief in so many ways, because even after knowing this, right? Before they enacted their revenge, they had poor, what was his name? Charlie,
And Charlie the
had this
dad. Yeah.
guy in a freaking box in the basement. He was like in a coffin, taped up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they were going down there and visiting with him, like,
Yeah.
and he was communicating in Morse code to them, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, are you kidding me? You're telling me that, okay, now that you have one Egyptian, what would you say, archaeologist or whatever, who
Yeah.
knows that this curse has happened, you have this cop who understands what happened, that they're cool with letting this family just keep this dude in their basement, this
Right.
ancient demon.
Yeah.
And and yeah, like I'm really glad that they showed this Egyptian cop being like, okay, I'm glad you called. We're going to do this. And it helps her, transfer the demon and everything, because that makes sense that this demon should be kept at least
Yes.
somewhere close to where it originated from.
Yeah.
Um, and also with people who understand how to keep it. how to keep it contained, because remember they also had the daughter Layla, uh,
Mm-hmm.
who was willing to help and try and, was trying to tell them in several ways where Katie was or what happened. Like she'd reached out to the family through a letter, um,
Yeah.
and she had tried to help so much that they ended up cutting off her tongue so she couldn't talk.
Yeah.
So, they had her. So it made sense that they would try to transfer this demon back into this woman who started all this.
Right.
Um, so I get that, but it's still like there's just so much that the ending could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, yeah, it's, I get why they did it. I get the revenge aspect of it. It just, I don't know. It, to me, it just felt kind of like,
It was unsatisfying.
yeah, yeah, it definitely did not satisfy because you're just like, yeah, I'm glad Charlie's gonna be saved and he's not gonna have to have that demon in him anymore and everything like that. But putting it in this woman who really had no choice either. I mean, sure, she could have put it in somebody different. She didn't have to kidnap a kid. Um, like we said, but like she could have made better choices. But I don't necessarily think that putting the demon inside her was the best choice. Um, so because I mean they're just gonna have to put it
Do
in
it again
somebody
soon.
else very soon. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
like it was a
definitely
very
odd choices. Yeah.
yes, it was a very unsatisfying ending because also it just means that this is a demon that couldn't be destroyed. And you would
Yeah.
have thought that maybe in some way they would find a better way to contain it.
Yeah.
Um, or something, or
Mm-hmm.
even in best case scenario, leave it open to where there's going to be a sequel
Yeah.
or a possibility like, oh no, we were wrong. This isn't like we did something wrong. Like this doesn't work because, for whatever reason. And, or like even like there's a residual part of that demon still left in Katie. Something.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to kind of leave you feeling like this wasn't just a rushed ending and them trying to tie everything up in a pretty little bow.
Yeah.
I wanted some messiness because the movie was messy. Like,
So it does say an earlier version of the ending focused more heavily on Charlie's sacrifice, but it was changed to provide a more emotionally satisfying conclusion. So basically, it sounds like that probably would have been more of an ending where it did end with him just in the box and them communicating with the uh, Morse code, and that could have because that did feel like an ending to me, and
it
then
did because it
they
was
go
kind of
on
like
to do the whole
Babadook, right?
transference. Yeah, yeah. But then they go on to do the rest of it where it's like transferring it into the other person so that you get kind of this more emotionally satisfying conclusion, but also at the same time kind of not like if you think about it, then you're just kind of like, that's really problematic. It's sure I get it, but also at the same time, it's kind of not the greatest. So
Yeah, because it also kind of cheapens his sacrifice.
yeah.
Because through the whole movie, he was the only one that was actively trying to find a way to save Katie.
Hmm.
Um, and even learning what he did, like, this is the only way that you can do this. It kind of cheapened that sacrifice and took it from him.
Yeah.
Especially because of the way that they showed that scene in the basement where the kids were down there communicating with him, just like, okay, this is our life now. It really kind of cheapened it. And it was so unsatisfying. Like I
Yeah.
just wanted a messier ending for an already messy movie.
I think if they had ended it with Charlie just being in the sarcophagus and then communicating through the Morse code, I think that would have probably been a better, more ambiguous kind of ending. Just because you're like, oh, okay, well he's still in there, he's still alive, he could still communicate.
And they're gonna have to do something when his body gives
Yeah,
out too. Is this that
exactly.
family's burden now?
Yeah, exactly. So like it moves from like family to family in that way. So yeah, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
like
could have been
there was
good.
some. yeah, there were so many. This movie's messy. I love it. Um,
I do like this movie. It is a decent movie that I think people should watch. I mean, that's ultimately, if you've gotten through this whole podcast and you have not seen this movie already, then go and watch it. It is a messy movie, but it's messy in a good way, for the
yeah,
most
because
part.
like you're gonna
And it's
leave
very
the movie.
entertaining. Yeah.
Yes, and you're gonna leave the movie talking about it, whether you liked it or you didn't like it,
Yes.
whether you understood it or you didn't, you're gonna be thinking about this movie. And those are the kind of movies that I like
Yeah. And you're gonna
because
want to talk to people about it for
and
sure.
yes, and it's been like I'm so glad I am here being able to do this podcast because and let me tell you, when the call was put out, I was like, me, let it be me, because I had so many feelings about this movie, and I have been shocked by how few of my like hardcore horror loving friends have not seen this movie. So
Yeah.
I've had no one to really like geek out about this with or talk to or who had an interest in talking about it, or even seeing it. I've been shocked by that
Well, I
because
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
it's just because it's not like it's a messy movie,
Hmm.
but and it did okay, like in the box office. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't it I mean, their budget was what, like something like 22 million, and I think they made something like 72 million back on this.
Mm.
So that's not a bad return, especially for a horror film. Um, and there were a lot of like bad criticism for this. I get it. I
Yeah.
get it because it's messy. The story's messy, and there's so many different layers to it. And the visceral aspect of the movie kind of just takes over everything else.
Yeah.
Because it makes you so freaking uncomfortable to watch this movie. But it's a good, like, overall, like, it's one of those movies where you're going to be talking about it. And I think, once, I'm not sure if it's on streaming right now.
No,
Um,
not yet. It's
but
still
I
in the
feel like
theaters.
once
Yeah.
it does and people start seeing it more because they feel like, oh, well, I'm not having to go, spend $50 at the movie theater, getting your ticket and your popcorn and soda. I feel
Yeah.
like once people are going to be able to watch this at home, because I know it's true for me that there are certain movies that I want to see, but I'm just like, I think I'll just wait for it to come on streaming before I do.
Yeah.
And then you watch it and you're like, I should have seen this on the big screen. And I think a lot of people are going to have that same feeling once they're able to watch this film through streaming.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think once you can watch it and you can watch it a couple of times, that it'll probably be something that people watch and definitely get to talk a lot more about. I did talk briefly about this. I hadn't seen it yet, but I was a guest on an episode of Final Girls Feast, where we were talking about Evil Dead Rise, and the co-host Sarah, she had seen uh, um, this movie, had seen The Mummy, and um, I hadn't yet, but she was comparing it a lot to Evil Dead Rise, and just had her opinions about that, about how close it was and everything. And I get it. I do. Um, I think that, again, going back to that, I think it's just enough different. There are definitely things that are in this that you can compare to, mostly shots, the way it's filmed, things that She is the Mummy does, that are similar to being a Deadite. But I think enough of it's different enough that it's definitely worth the watch.
Yeah, and I think the big difference too is like Evil Dead, there's humor. There's always been humor
Yes.
in Evil Dead. And with Evil Dead Rise, that humor was still there,
Mm-hmm.
even though it was very dark, even though it was just as visceral,
Mm-hmm.
um, that humor was there.
Yeah.
And I think what makes the Mummy very different is that humor is not there.
There's
Um,
there's humor, but it definitely,
but
like we said,
it's
comes off as very uncomfortable at
yes,
times. When
Like
there is
you
the
don't
humor, you're
know.
laughing at a situation that you're not sure was meant to be humorous.
Or if it's just because your coping mechanism,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Because
Like when like Maud takes the grandma's teeth out of her mouth from the funeral and puts them in her mouth, and it's just like, oh my God, what? Like, what are you doing?
yes.
Like, and it's a funny moment, and you're just like, it's an uncomfortable laugh because you should not be laughing at that, but it's such a weird out of the moment that you're just like, oh my God, what?
And
So
it was so funny, right? I
yeah,
mean, just to see it.
yeah,
But that humor, like when you're watching Evil Dead Rise, like I remember going to see that and I thought it was so fun.
yeah.
Um, it was dark, it was freaky, visceral, but it was
Hmm.
still fun. But that humor is largely like the mummy is not supposed to be fun.
No.
It is, but not in the same way. Like the fun
Yeah.
is, I think, in just like I said earlier, just being that having those moments where somebody laughs in the theater and everybody else is just like, what is wrong with
Like,
them?
what are
Because
you
they're
laughing
not
at?
sure if
Yeah.
it's supposed to be funny or if that's just somebody who's so warped
Right.
that they think it's funny,
Yeah.
and because like, and I think about that too, like when I watch horror movies, because there are a lot of things I find funny, and I'm that person too that will watch something that's not supposed to be funny. And something will happen and it's supposed to be serious, it's supposed to be emotional.
Hmm.
And not in, not in a horror movie, but in just regular movies. And I'll sit there and I'll be laughing, and everyone's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? That's so emotional. That's such a tender, sweet moment, or that was such an atrocity. And I'm just like, but it was the way that they filmed it, or the
Yeah.
way the actor's face looked in that moment, or, something where I just found humor in it.
Hmm.
And again, sometimes too, it's a coping mechanism because I am that person who cries in movies. Like, I mean, I'm not, I'm gonna feel so embarrassed to admit this, but I still cry when I watch movies like Up and Disney
Oh yeah.
movies. And, like I'm sitting there bawling, trying not to hide, like trying to hide it, but obviously I'm bawling. So my
Yeah.
coping mechanism is inappropriate laughter and humor. And that
Yeah.
happens, right? So I am that person that people are typically looking at like, what is wrong with you for laughing at that or finding that funny?
Yeah.
So when you're watching this movie, like it really makes you aware of it. Like,
Yeah.
we do it out just naturally most of the time and don't think nothing of it. But in this movie, because of the tone that is set, it really makes you think that, okay, I don't know if I should laugh because I don't want to be that person in this particular moment and with this particular tone. So and that's kind of what makes that movie fun too, because
Yeah.
you just don't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think, you gotta go with it just because that's, if you don't laugh, you're gonna, you got to go with whatever emotion you have in that moment,
Yeah,
for
and I
sure.
think the other big difference that we have to talk about is that at least in this movie, you had real survivors.
Yes. Yeah, that was something I noticed too. Is like, other than the grandma, the whole rest of the family lives. Like,
Yeah,
everybody survives.
everybody kind of gets a happy ending, and you
Yeah.
did not have that in Evil Dead Rise.
No, no. Like, most of that family's dead at the end of that one. So it's like, yikes.
Which
Um,
was also fun about that movie
yeah.
because, you know, and I really see I'm this here I go again. Okay, just letting you guys know how warped I am. But I like when movies that involve kids, horror movies, right?
Hmm.
Actually go there and put those kids in danger
Yeah.
and are willing to literally be like, you know what, they're not safe either.
Well, and
Because
I think this movie does that too, because
yes,
you don't
that
know
they're
that they're going to
okay.
survive. They
Because
are
that
really
physical
messed up.
damage,
Yeah.
yeah, that I mean the little girl like her pulling
Her
her teeth
teeth are all
out,
gone. Yeah.
yeah, like that's something that,
Now, to be
that's a
fair, at
trauma.
least she was young enough that those were just all her baby
Or
teeth.
baby teeth,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So,
But still, like the trauma of this whole situation, is
yeah.
like sticks with you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and I like when stories go there, especially in horror, because I remember the first time that I read a horror book where they killed a kid was
Mm-hmm.
Brian Keene's The Ghoul.
Mm.
And and he didn't just mention it like, Stephen King did it, sure, but it was always something that happened off screen or,
Yeah.
like Georgie getting pulled into the sewer and you were kind of left to it was left to your imagination, right?
Yeah.
And you knew he died, but it wasn't when Brian Keene did it in The Ghoul. I was shocked. I was like, oh no, he didn't. Because he literally had like the ghoul killing this kid and eating him and
Oh
talking
wow.
about how he forgot how good like fresh kills were and talking about how delicious this kid was. you
That's
know
funny.
and it stuck with me, and so I like when movies go there because I feel that's what when like the remake of it, right, the movies,
Yeah.
and I'm glad they kind of corrected course with Welcome to Derry, because the thing that annoyed me the most about the remake is that they teased the danger, but none of the kids were actually in danger or
Yeah.
even came that close. Like they all survived, they came out of it unscathed, and it was just annoying to me because like you want to feel that danger. And
Yeah.
I feel like it started with Stranger Things, right? Like this
Mm.
cutesy, like, okay, you got a misfit band of friends, and we're
Yeah.
going to put them in these dangerous situations, but we can't kill them because they're well-liked characters.
Right.
And I feel like that kind of like spilled over into a lot of like horror films, into a lot of things where they really would have benefited from actually being able to sacrifice those characters and not worrying
You
about
just
like,
you just want to see kids die.
I
I know.
know, and it's such a morbid thing, right? But like, come on. Like, this is why we watch horror. And
Yeah.
let's be honest about horror. We've been watching kids die because
Yeah.
it's like none of like, I'm sure, and I think it helps that in these movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween, the actors that they cast look a little bit older. So we kind of forget that these are teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we've been watching this for a while, but now that they're bringing in like younger kids into these genres, it's like if you're gonna do it, at least have the balls to actually put them in danger and take them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And again, there is my morbidness. But just, but I like that. Like when I watched Evil Dead Rise, like that was my favorite part of it because nobody was safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were just waiting for like, okay, how's this going to happen? Um, I mean, it was wild. So I
Yeah.
kind of expected that with the Mummy, and I was kind of shocked by the ending that they had survivors.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was surprised that the whole family made it out for sure, given everything else that had happened in the course of the movie. So, but I also wasn't disappointed by it as well. Like I didn't have a problem with the whole family living. So in this instance, it was
Yeah,
kind of one of those
exactly.
things where I was just kind of like, okay, that's fine. They deserve they deserve they deserve to live. They fought it off as best they can. The dad's in the box now, blah blah blah. And they managed to, survive and be a somewhat whole family at the end of this. So okay, I'll give them that. So
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just wanted a messier ending for a messy
yeah.
movie because and even if they kept him in the box, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of a morbid ending in itself. Like, okay,
Well,
we're
he
all
was in the
we're all
wheelchair at the
cool.
very end. Remember, they pulled him out of the box for the
Yeah, to
transference. Yeah.
transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have done that too, like
Yeah.
for holiday pictures, Christmas, birthdays, just like, all right, we're
Just we're
pulling
gonna
him out
pull
of
him
the
out once in a
coffin.
while. Yeah.
Yeah. And
We'll
that
put
would
him
have
back in
been,
the box afterward.
yeah, like that kind of like, even if you're just imagining that, right, would have been an
Yeah.
okay ending if they had kept him in that box.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I think that would have made for the better, messier ending, just to keep him in the box and just the family having to deal with, what do they do from that point on? Like how does this get resolved and
Yeah, because
whatnot?
also let's not forget the dad was pretty beat up when he made that
Yeah.
sacrifice too.
Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, no, I think this is definitely a movie that people should go watch. If you haven't watched it, hopefully you've watched it already. And you can let Johnny and I know in the comments on social media when I make the post on this. But yeah, let us know what you think of the movie. Did you like it? Did you hate it? You know, what? So, what did you think of the movie? So, um, that's all I've got for this episode. Do you have anything else you wanted to mention that we haven't talked about?
I think we covered it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
Yep, well, you can find me online pretty much everywhere at Johnnie Jae, and you could check out Red Pop News at www.redpopnews.com.
All right. And make sure to stay tuned to the podcast because Johnny is coming back at the end of this month. Um, because we've already recorded it, but she did it. We're doing an episode together on Starman, John Carpenter's Starman. So make sure to come back for that. If you liked our conversation on this, you'll like our conversation on that one as well. That one comes up at the end of May. So, all right. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. It's always
Oh, well,
great
thank you so
having you
much for
on.
having me.
Yeah, it's always great having you on. So, and this time we got to talk real horror because, like, first we talked Marvel, and then we talked Starman, which isn't really horror; it's more sci-fi.
Yeah,
And now I finally got you on for some horror. So,
I know. And I'm so glad it was this movie because I've had to let these feelings out for a long time now.
well, I'm glad you got to come on my show and let them out because, yeah, that was a lot of fun. So, all right. Well, we will definitely be hearing from you soon, and we'll get you on for another episode, I'm sure, in the not so distant future. But yeah, thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is produced and hosted by Robert Clark. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. You can follow the podcast by going to creepyandgeeky.com and clicking on any of the social links. If you'd like to follow me, you can find my links at geekthulu.com. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on Teepublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.